Hey, it's Nick from the All-American Reject.
Hey, this is Dwayne Beck.
Hi, this is Tino Troy from Praying Mantis.
And you're listening to Unlikely Places Pop and Rock Radio Show.
Now a talk show. And I'm your host, Jay Edmonds, with...
Greetings, this is David Scalp, the Noise Curator.
And this is Matthew Grimm, editor and co-host for...
Unlikely Places Pop and Rock Radio.
Ow! Hey guys, it's your host Jay, and we're here with Brian Aubert today. Very excited for this. We're all Silversun Pickups fans here, and we're going to just run our show like we have been for the last 2 episodes, and Brian's interview will be in the middle for you. It's going to be a fun episode. Introduce you guys real quick. Dave, say hi.
Hi, David Scaff, the Noise Curator. Great to be here for another episode of Unlikely Places Power Pop Rock Radio.
Go ahead, Matt.
And Matthew Graham here, musician and radio/video editor.
Oh, yeah. And Brian, of course.
Our special guest.
I'm Brian Aubert, and I fall down and my guitar makes noise, and that's what I do for a living.
It's perfect. Enjoy seeing you guys live.
You guys seem so professional.
Oh, it's a step
up.
Wow,
thank you. Yes.
I watched you guys. I was feeling pretty confident, and then I saw you guys do your, your intro, and I went,
We try real hard.
Yeah.
Didn't look like it.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, I'll let you start off with the music history. As we
usually do at the top of our shows, we do a little bit on this day in rock and roll history. And this episode not being any different. On this day in 1969, Paul McCartney publicly denied rumors that he was dead. Does anybody remember that?
Oh, yeah, the Paul's dead theory.
The
Big
Paul's
news.
dead theory. So it was at the time. I mean, that was a long time ago, right?
He's been dead the whole time.
Yeah. So he has and he hasn't. And so he publicly denied the rumors that he was dead. And the most recent of many clues of his death hoax was the fact that he was the only barefoot Beatle on the newly released Abbey Road LP cover. The story was actually started as a prank by Fred LeBauer, a sports and arts writer for the student paper at the University of Michigan, the Michigan Daily.
Yeah, that's right. And the Sgt. Pepper cover had the 3 bass strings too. And then there's a whole like deep dive Beatles like back catalog of that stuff.
Right.
And,
always the Easter eggs.
Oh yeah.
Imagine having to look at somebody in the eyes and have to tell them you're not dead.
You have to prove it. You have to sit there and
prove it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Have you ever had anything like that happen to you, Brian? Some rumor, not necessarily
people thought I was dead,
but yeah.
People have said things, and I just kind of, as long as they're not harmful to other people, I find them funny because I'm pretty boring, and so if people want to make up exciting stuff, have fun.
Right. Well, there's no bad PR, is there?
That's true.
Get your name out there.
I'm sure there is, but it's not none of my business to see what people are saying.
I like that. I like that approach.
Yeah.
If you believe I'm dead, and that makes you happy, I say go for it. I don't want to stand in the way of your happiness.
An odd way to derive joy, but hey, each his own.
Listen, I'm not kink shaming. You do you.
Oh, that's funny.
Cool. One other tidbit on this day in rock and roll
little
history.
Seattle news here.
Yes.
Wait. Can we back up for 1 second?
Sure.
What that was started by a
sports writer at a college newspaper.
Started that rumor.
Yes.
Just like the Klaatu for the Beatles. Klaatu was started by college rumors too.
I don't know what that sports writer went on to do after that.
Yeah.
But that is his claim to fame.
Wow. Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah. That's a big one. So
yeah.
Yeah. So our other tidbit on this day in rock and roll history, in 1990, Pearl Jam played their very first concert when they appeared at the Off Ramp in Seattle.
Wow.
You ever play that venue, Brian?
No, I don't know if that's still around. Is it?
I don't know. I was just in Seattle last week. I didn't go to look.
We have played everywhere you can imagine there, and I do not recall playing the Off Ramp, unless the name has changed. But that was 34 years ago.
A while ago,
if my math is correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was born in '99. I feel like stupidly young now. Like all these shows I wish I could have seen because I was growing up as a Posies fan. It's like it sucks.
The baby of the group.
The
Yeah,
baby,
but
yes.
you're building your own history, Jay.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, there we go.
Don't get crushed by others' nostalgia.
True.
Get your own.
Yeah, and I've been excited. Hey, I got Nickelodeon. I love that controversy. That's not good either.
Yeah.
That's not as good I liked the cartoons. SpongeBob. There we go. Legacy of SpongeBob. There we go.
Nickelodeon. When I was a kid, Nickelodeon is the is the channel that taught us that our parents suck.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they had Adult Swim.
Yeah,
I was
that's right. You suck,
that's
Dad.
crazy too. Or yeah, that's a Nick at Night too. I'm trying to remember all that stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mine was you can't do that on television. It seemed like it was Canadian, so it was a little exotic,
Oh, that's cool.
And it was just it had like an unruliness to it, like a little bit of a punk rockness to it.
Kind of reminds me of like Kids in the Hall or something like that.
Yeah, Kids in the Hall was adults though.
Gotcha.
So it's like these are like kids doing weird skits about getting shot.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
That's a little different.
It was dark and it was really fun.
Yeah.
It was rad. It was rad.
Yeah.
Well, that segues very nicely into our next segment.
I'm afraid.
Which is on mental health. Are you looking at our notes, Brian?
Yeah, I have a webcam on you.
All right.
Awesome. Yeah, we got the with the mental health segment, I'm actually going to keep it brief, but I was originally going to talk about a lot of stuff, but I recently just got my gallbladder removed, and that has been a pain to get used to the diet, used to these things. Life is precious, and it changes on a dime. I went from eating bagels and smiling my face off, eating fat foods and Cheetos and enjoying my life. I thought so, but I was miserable. I was annoyed, and I was getting angry very easily and everything. And then all of a sudden, started isolating from everyone, just everything. And this is after our show, Brian, like wait, a little bit after. Actually, not too far after. I just started like going off the deep end. Turns out my gallbladder was going, and your body will show you signs. It's weird. It shows you start isolating, you start doing this. And my segment today is going to be about the hospital PTSD. I couldn't sleep since I've gotten home. I think I got my first real sleep last night. It has been painful because I guess the body can relate mentally to things like, I guess being in hospital for 4 days, you're sitting on the bed, things are all that. And it's a lot, but finally getting my sleep right before the interview. So I appreciate being able to do the interview today. But so that's why I'm a little hyper, but yeah. But yeah, no, mental health is something we seriously do take on this show, as I've dealt with issues my whole life, and I like to promote that. And that was one of the segments I think. But for you, Brian, do you deal with any mental struggles with the touring?
I mean,
and stuff?
I feel like everybody does really, and you kind of go from levels. I always have, and it's always been important to check in with that. And as you get the luxury I've noticed, for me at least, of getting older is being able to have a little bit more access to that.
Definitely.
But if you don't have access to it, especially in this country, it's not your fault. It's difficult to. It's still as open as it is now. It's still insanely a subject that is not dealt with very well in this country in any level whatsoever, and it's honestly astonishing.
I lost
you think you think that should be the first thing, one of the first things that is offered to people in functioning society, as nutty as it is. I mean, look at like our politics.
Right.
Like, how can you not have a level of insane anxiety when it's just being thrown at you all the time, even if you're not prone to it?
Right.
Your idol will be a sort of like a ticking time bomb, kind of.
It's almost like the gallbladder surgery kind of came in time, because like the stress for me was through the roof, and I thought it was just my anxiety. That's another thing too.
But like you talk about your diet and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in the end of it all, like I think you're going to feel better, because the stuff you put in your body, food wise and everything like that, just sort of like keeps that cycle going. And so big things, like, I know you're gonna miss certain things, but at the end of the day, you won't miss them. And what you won't miss is how you felt.
That's what I'm hearing. And like my producer's Jason Cropper of Weezer fame, and Dave's also his manager too. And I wanted to, I was talking to him about that, and I started doing the artist way to really focus. And I found that what I was eating was distracting my songwriting as well. Like, I was writing a lot of angry songs because I was in pain. And I'm looking forward. The recovery's been rough, but I'm looking forward to what years ahead are going to happen, and excited for that.
You want something new, like it's funny how you hold on to the things that you feel are safe, but they're not things that make you feel good.
Yeah,
you
I
know.
definitely. I know. I
And
know
so
Dave.
sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it takes a bottoming out insane with
Yeah.
alcohol and drugs like that. Sometimes it takes a gallbladder to go wonky,
and
you
sometimes it's
know?
both because of one, and it's
Yeah,
like
I mean, you
it
never
could
know
all
what it
relate.
is, but as long
Yeah.
as you can recognize what it is, and if sounds like you have a good head on your shoulders about the whole thing, and
I think
that's
what
going to be
keeps me
good.
going
You're
is
going to be all right.
listening to music like your band, and I love
Oh,
Silversun Pickups, but I also there's other
I'm sorry about
Posey
that.
stuff like that. Oh, well, maybe it's because of the Silversun Pickups that I had to no, but no, but I seriously, it's
The guy
music.
from the
It helps so
Posies,
much.
we hung out with him. He's basically
Yeah,
in charge of Big Star,
yeah, yeah.
And
John,
we
yeah,
did John, and we did Nikki and my bass player and I did a benefit in Madison,
super.
Wisconsin, involving Big Star and Jody and everybody, and it's
Was
blast.
Mike Mills a part of that too with REM? Because I know
Mike
he's been
Mills
in.
was
Oh,
not a
okay.
part of that.
Oh, okay.
No,
Because I know he was in and out
no,
with our the Big Star stuff too. Oh, very
yeah,
cool.
but it's basically John. John really is carrying the weight of that whole thing because Jody's the
Yeah.
only member left, and
Yeah,
so
because with the
watching
Ken
John.
thing and all that moving forward, it's
Oh,
like, yeah, that whole thing too, and
yeah,
all
he
that. And it's
introduced himself to me as the good Posey, and I didn't quite know what he meant.
oh boy, oh boy,
And then I
yeah,
found out,
Oh
and I went,
yeah.
"Oh man."
yeah, a
Maybe don't
lot.
touch that one.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's a lot. I grew up for both of them, and I'm still, on both of them, learning from both still, and seeing how certain things happen, and it's interesting to take in as a fan, and friends of both. It was hard to like, fathom, and I know you guys worked with Frankie too, as having him as on the tours and
Love
stuff.
Frankie.
He's
Love
great.
him.
Yeah,
He's
he's
great.
great. But we'll move into the interview now. And actually, I got the first couple questions. That's why I probably said 60% earlier, because I got the first couple questions. And my first
Okay,
question
okay. But
for
I'm
you.
reading. So far, I'm reading.
Oh yeah, you
I'm
got
feeling. Here's my numbers so far.
so
My
far.
percentage numbers. I'm seeing. I'm seeing. 50, 40, 10.
Yeah, Matt's
Okay.
getting used.
Yeah.
Matt's got a really good
No,
question for you. We're excited for that.
Matt's clutch. Matt's gonna be like, Matt's gonna say something and it's gonna blow our minds.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Try to.
No, I'm excited to have everybody here. This is so much fun. I used to just do the show by myself, and it weighed a lot on me. So I'm glad to have everybody. But yeah, my first
I
question for you,
know.
Brian, is
Yeah.
how does the touring world affect you? Like when you go on tour and stuff.
How does it affect me?
Yeah.
Um, well, a couple of ways. I think we've gotten a lot better at it as time's gone on. Like honestly, we're pretty good at touring now, meaning we have a really good relationship with staying healthy and sane, and also access the circus, the part of it that keeps it uh adventurous, because you can like lock yourself away in a tour bus or in a hotel room, and that's not helpful. Or you can just lose your mind out there, and that's not helpful. You almost have to just be able to be a part of your normal life and your home life, and take part in like the travel aspect of it, and seeing things, and be really there for the shows and meeting people, and just things that are the fun about touring. And we've gotten really good at that balance. It was hard, and it was hard to learn, but we do it pretty well now. We also only tour for a couple of weeks at a time now. We've sort of learned that from other bands since we do our own shows,
I like
our
that.
own tours mainly. But even if we're opening for bands, they generally do the same thing, like 3 weeks, then a week off, 2 weeks. So when we're gone, we're gone. But when we're home pretty seriously, so it all balances out. Yeah, I would say it's also being, at least from my perspective, being in a band, the duality is really fascinating, because when you get sick of one thing, this whole other side of it comes. So it's like we're pretty done. We're done touring. This last month I could feel like butter on too much bread. You know what I mean? Like it's time. Naturally, you feel like I gotta stop doing this, and usually that means is you got to get quiet, and you got to get
Mm.
you got to access a different kind of your brain, and so you get sort of small and creative, and you find yourself in the studio, and you're working on a record, and it's all very intimate, and very you can hear yourself constantly. And then just when that gets tiring, and you have no more, you don't have any metaphors left in your body, you get to go do a tour where it's sort of big and crazy. And so it's like a thing that kind of keeps it fresh, but really at the end of the day, it's up to you as a person to make sure that you are honestly accessing it. Like you get what you give, really. You know, we always tell bands that, like bands, if you're not enjoying the process in the beginning of going to the club and playing at 1 a.m. and you don't enjoy it at all, you're not going to enjoy any of it. You know, you get what you give in a band, even with touring heavily like we do. So you got to make sure you kind of put the work into to having a good time.
Yeah, I noticed, you know, a lot of bands have different, because I've noticed, like, I just watched the John Waite documentary, and touring was tough for him too. But then he was like, I also really enjoyed it.
John Waite.
Yeah, Change. I'm trying to remember the Missing You. Missing You is the big
Oh,
hit.
dude, yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing
Yeah, I
him
remember that guy.
Saturday. He's coming,
John
Mohegan Sun
Waite.
in Connecticut.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
like
excited for that.
an 80s
Yeah.
What was the
singer,
hit
right?
band? What was his
The
band called?
Babies.
The Babies and
Yeah.
Bad
No,
English.
Bad English is the one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
that's what I
second
remember.
one, and that had members of Journey in it too, which was really cool.
Oh, wow.
I have a signed record somewhere, and that was before I became a
cool.
John Waite fan. I have it somewhere. I gotta find it. But my second question for you, Brian, and this is kind of ties in with the tour and stuff too as well, but also the studio side. Has the source of your inspirations changed throughout the years as a writer?
I don't know. I think so. I mean, I think you're just alive and you're lucky enough to stay alive. You have settled things, hopefully, and you have new things you're sort of facing. And I think it's just, it feels the same because you're as curious and as troubled and as interested as you were about other things, but the subject changes, you know? And I find myself getting less and less, you know, like I said, as life goes on, you get less bothered by these little things and you find yourself facing these more profound things. And it still feels sort of the same, but the subjects are quite different. And at the end of the day, for me, it's just like if I start hearing songs, really, it's less about thinking about what they should be about or this and that. It's just like all of a sudden songs are coming, you know? And it's like, okay, I've got enough to these things rattling around my brain that I have to put them out somewhere or I'm going to go crazy because they just won't leave my mind until we record it. So that's usually how it happens. And then like it's pretty much whatever is happening in my life or whatever is concerning you or what, I don't know what it is that's at least thematically you find interesting. That's going to bleed into that moment. I mean, when the song is created, what, like if that song was birthed at a time in a different time, it would have been about something else, you know? It's like the sonics and the themes and the timing all sort of matches up. You know, like records, like songs and albums they just exist because they happen at that time, right? When you do your own music, it's hard to equate to other people because when you hear other people's songs and other people's music, it feels so defined. You hear this record and you're like, you can't imagine it in any other way. But in reality, you are just kind of doing things at the moment. Like this thing is happening because this is where your head is at. And this thing is happening like this because you like this sound now. But like 3 years later, if you wrote the same song, it would be totally different.
I like that. Yeah, I always, as a writer myself, and I know Matt's a writer too. You tend to pull from different things, and it's nice to see
a different way.
Right. Yeah, I always like that about writers that you could listen to one band, even if they sound maybe similar, there's different writing styles. That the writing is always going to be unique because the chords, we've all discovered the chords, but I always like when people can take a different approach and make a unique sound.
We only know what the chords are when we have to talk to each other about them. You know, like you don't think about them. And then we have to start if we're in the
That's true.
Butch Vig is our producer and our friend, but he's been the guy we've been working with for a long time, and we always make jokes because we're just trying to define the part so we can talk about it. So we're always like, okay, that was the thing that was the chorus, but could be the thing. Like we just need to define it at the time because we just don't really think about chords and choruses and things like that. They're just sort of parts. So it makes it difficult when we're trying to discuss it with each other. So that's usually when we find when the chords are what they are. Like, oh, I didn't know that was the same chords as the other song. Like, I just didn't think about it because it's more about the shape and more about the movement and how it all connects with melodies and stuff like that.
And speaking about movements and connecting melodies, I'm pass the mic over to Matt for his set of questions for you.
Here
and
we go,
it's
Matt. Come on.
some questions. All right, go ahead, Matt.
Okay, so I saw in an interview that you were with you asking about the importance of radio. And so with that, my question for you is, what would be your radio moments you remember as a listener? Like discovering a band or a song? What would be that?
I mean, I remember hearing like in Los Angeles, we're quite lucky because especially when I grew up, there was a lot of access to different kinds of music, not just college stations like KXLU. We had KCRW, that was a big NPR station that was always pumping new different music. And at the time, K-Rock and the sort of big stations were very left of center because like rock music was so popular and pop music was so popular that anything that was strange all went into one sort of thing. So you had Nirvana next to Bjork, next to Elliott Smith and Jane's Addiction, and just everything sort of different was coming at you for free through the radio. It's basically like listening to really great mixtapes, and I had a profound effect on me because you realize that wasn't necessarily what people were hearing. You had an access or an early ability that if you wanted, you could find something interesting and new easily because it was just playing in your car out of nowhere, like some DJ. And I find that really important. And it's hard, because radio is so corporate now. It's like it's a whole different sort of world. So people are kind of like very different. I mean, like I said, like you could hear PJ Harvey on a rock station back in the day. It was just
right. They didn't really call it alternative then. You're thinking about
they did that later.
Yeah,
it's weird because we'll call things like we'll still listen. We're a unique band, and I'm only saying that just through talking through other bands. Like we sort of go in between these worlds. So we get to play all these really cool festivals, like indie stuff, and that art's more in my liking and more in my heart. But we also get invited to do these sort of radio things, and I'm not going to be lame about it because that's cool that they're playing us, and if they want us to come do it, we'll do it. But it is a different world.
Definitely,
it's definitely much more limited and. But you meet people who work in those stations that really like want to break things open. They want to give people access to like really cool music. And I always think that, especially if you're a big commercial radio station and if you're in a city, I think it's very important that you spend a sliver of your time promoting local bands.
Yes.
Because I think these stations need to be local. And if you just give like a couple of minutes an hour to local bands, then the local bands get airplay. They start to get known. People in that town will go support their local bands and it'll go fill up those clubs. And there's just sort of like even an economic wheel that goes on. And I think for the culture of a city, I think it's necessary and important, and it's insane that the people won't do that. Yeah, and I know the DJs, a lot of those DJs in all those stations, trust me, I there's some really good people out there and they want to do that.
Yeah, there's a shout out to John Kamal in Connecticut. He does a local band show. He's played my music, he's played everybody. It's so important. Super important. I'm glad that they didn't get rid of that. I work for commercial. I work for PLR and Star 99, which I love. I love the networking side of that. But I definitely I prefer as a musician. I love that they have a local band show, so I totally agree.
I mean, I just get worried that, you don't want radio to just fizz itself away because it becomes so corporate and they become so like this and money and stuff like that. All they do is they've narrowed themselves down to a position where there's going to be generations of people that aren't going to care because they're not playing anything new for these kids and stuff like that. Like when we go into those radio stations and talk to people and they always tell us like what they think is happening with music, I'm like, no. It's what you think is we're out there and there's lots of awesome stuff and lots of bands selling out crazy big venues that you guys do not know. And you can easily be a part of this if you want it, but you don't. And it's a shame because just having free access to music coming at you like that would be awesome, Bring back local DJs, local.
For sure. Absolutely.
Dude, yeah, tastemakers, taste-making DJs and stuff. Take the college radio scene and like bump it up and make it bigger. You can still play your Chili Peppers. You can still play
deep cuts.
There's enough room for all.
Yeah.
Matt, did you have another question?
Not a question, more like a comment, something kind of cool I noticed. I was watching the rig rundown you did a little while ago. And I noticed in your arsenal, you happen to have one of the guitars I have. I don't think they make anymore. I believe it's the Gibson Midtown or Midtown Special.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of neat. I don't see anybody with that guitar usually.
Yeah, I think I got it that one time they made it. Yeah, we use it. I use it for 2 songs of ours that are severely detuned. And that guitar seems to handle it pretty well. So I do, and basically, you wouldn't really notice. It's funny that you noticed that. Did I mention that on the rig? Because it does.
Yeah, you mentioned
it. Looks like a 335
for sure. Yeah,
yeah. It's interesting to people that notice that guitar because I don't think it's a guitar that screams that it's different. But if you know, you know.
Exactly.
That's cool.
I'm a 335 fanatic, so
me too. I'm a big 335 fan. This last tour I've been playing in it. Taken me quite a long time to understand how like my relationship with guitars has gotten deeper, and it's been quite a while. And only in this last tour have I traveled with a bunch of guitars, and they've kind of come from a utilitarian kind of way, meaning there's a purpose to them. Like I need that for this and this and that. But I have collected some guitars that now I'm starting to become like I'm starting to understand those people a little bit. I was like, oh, well, you get that one, that sounds cool, and you get that one, that sounds cool. But the Midtown has been the guitar that I've had that has been able to hold those strings at such a low tuning better than the others, as good as it can.
I like that.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
10-minute warning, just so we know.
Thanks. I'll go right into mine and we can do a little edit, Matt.
Hey man, you nailed it.
Yeah.
Cool.
40, 20.
There we go.
There it is.
Move it up. I can't wait to put the title of this video, Percentages with Brian.
You bumped up 100%. You went from 10 to 20.
There we go.
Double the action. Brian, I've spent my entire career working in live event production on the technical side, sound, lighting, video. Yeah, I started as a stagehand when I was 19. And
whereabouts in Connecticut? Or
I'm not in Connecticut. I actually live in California, and I'm in the Bay Area. But I work all over the country. I've done international as well. This is had those experiences where sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. And definitely the indelible, moments that you remember. So in your recollection, in your touring life, which venue did you find the most challenging to perform at?
Venue. I mean, that would have to be the early days, I mean, we were playing live for a long time before we recorded records or anything. We were used to like the strangest places ever. We didn't even have a monitor or even hear one properly for like 2 years in. So everything seems like a cakewalk to me compared to how we started. And I'm glad we started that way because I remember playing festivals for the first time and seeing bands who you could tell this was the first time they're out of their perfect practice space. and they seemed frazzled, even though things were fine, but it didn't work. And we were used to like three or 4 years of never hearing anything we were doing and just hoping for the best.
And then
Now,
one day walking on stage and, oh
I'm
my
definitely
gosh,
not,
there's a whole monitor rig here.
Yeah. I remember the first time I remember playing this club Spaceland and they're in LA, and there was this these monitors sitting there, and it's just people put their drinks on them. And then one day, after a couple of years, like we heard ourselves through it and went, "What? Is that what it's supposed to be?" No, I'm not saying that we played amazingly through all that. I'm just saying that we felt confident doing it.
Cool.
So yeah, I mean, honestly, I would say some of the most challenging performances things I've ever done is Nikki and I do a lot of acoustic stuff, a lot of promo. We call them corporate campfires, where like YouTube makes you sit in the room on their lunch break and they all sit around, and Apple, 5 guys sit in a room, and those can be really bizarre. But I remember in particular, this one company, this is a long time ago, this company wanted like the full band acoustic, which is, people say they want things, but they don't know what that means. Like you demand that we play full band acoustic. Okay, we're coming. And then you're going to freak out for the drums, how loud they are. It's like that. And they wanted us to play through this PA of 2 Bose speakers.
Oh, jeez.
And I just, our attitude was always this, and my attitude is this the same way. Like, you want us to come do this thing, we're going to show up and we're going to do it. How it sounds out there is not our problem. We're doing it. You're figuring out how to get it to sound that. And I guess this was a huge deal because the boss of this company was sitting in the middle of the room, and you could tell the boss was responsible for like making sure it was just these speakers. And so we started and they blew up immediately. And we just had fun, and I just played acoustic without mics and stuff, and you could tell the whole job, all the employees were loving it because they were looking at their boss who they didn't like, just like.
Well, that is a good one. Thank you for sharing. Would you be willing to share the story about?
How about you? What's your worst thing you can think of? What was your most challenging venue?
Yeah, I'll do 2 quick ones. Working at Masonic in San Francisco, which is the top of Nob Hill, was doing a corporate gig there, and I primarily work as a technical director, so responsible for sound, like video, whatever.
And San Francisco, people who don't know, big corporate gig place for a while there with the tech industry. And
yes,
all that.
Absolutely. Yes. That is where I've done, most of those kind of shows. But this particular venue, I don't know if you play there, Nob Hill and Sonic. It's just at the top of California, right? There's a big hill there. And one of the touring tracks, it's a terrible load in there, and load out. So tricky to do. But doing this corporate gig there, and a semi with a dance floor in it, which is the lower part of the truck, gets hung up on the hill.
Oh man, of course.
And then it's like $2,500 to get a semi tow truck to get it unstuck. Yeah, so
that's amazing.
That was one. Another one would be working at
that's like outside the venue. You haven't even made it outside,
right? You haven't made it outside into the venue and getting stuck, and then having to go with a production schedule and get all the stuff in so that the event can go on.
Amazing.
My second one would be working at Javits, which is always difficult because of
what's that one?
Javits in New York.
Oh,
Center. Yeah, another corporate event. But in that particular venue, there are so many different union jurisdictions, and things like if you have 2 microphones, it's under this IATSE chapter. If you have 6 microphones, it's under this, right? And keeping all those rules straight.
New York is hardcore.
And then having to deal with the attitude of the union guys. Hey, you're taking food off of my kid's plate. That kind of
It can be hard because you kind of understand how this keeps everyone safe, and I get how these unions are 100%. I'm all for it, but it can be frustrating for like crews and stuff who've been working and do stuff, and then they come to New York and they find it very, very challenging. Can I tell you one real quick? that you for some reason made me think of when you're talking about the truck being stuck? I don't know why this made me think of it. We played a festival in San Diego. That was like a big festival that they had for years and years and years and years and years.
The X Fest?
No, I think it was called the Street Scene.
Yeah, Street Scene. Yeah, downtown, right?
Well, we played the
gas lamp district.
We played the last one.
Yeah.
And while we were all playing, we were hanging out with Public Enemy because Public Enemy was doing the show with us. Like we were just on that camp, you know? And while we were all in our dressing rooms and stuff, tow trucks started coming and started taking away all the backstages. All the vendors started closing stuff because the guy wasn't paying anyone. And so the whole festival was being taken away from us.
Wow.
We were with Public Enemy, just like watching, like almost fascinated, like sitting on a couch, like. And I cannot remember what happened, but I think allegedly, Public Enemy got somebody involved in the festival to mortgage their house on a Sunday.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
And pay the bands.
Wow, that is a really good one.
Whoa.
We were just like, I've never seen that happen before. Like everything just started to get taken away. Because the rumors just started happening, like no one was getting paid. Like the people who worked there weren't getting paid. So everybody just started like it was it was like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Like I'd go to the bathroom and I'd come back and the dressing room would be gone. Yeah. And then that vendor was gone. It was so weird.
There's an awesome rock and roll story. Yeah.
Oh wow.
That festival's not happening anymore.
Nope. Yep. Gone to the heap. Yeah.
Don't mess with Public Enemy, dude.
No.
Duly noted. Yeah. Hey, Brian, do you think you'd be willing to share the story behind one of your songs? It doesn't have to be Lazy Eye or Panic Switch, or it could be. Just
whatever you want.
Yeah. Actually, I want you to pick what, like your favorite
Panic Switch was talked about. I can tell you something quickly about Panic Switch. When we were making the record Swoon, we were writing it, which is our second album. Near the ending of the writing, where we were in the practice space for about a month and a half, and we were in there like 4 days a week or 5 days a week, and we had a lot of song ideas. And I remember everybody's eyes were looking red and starting to get fatigued, because we were throwing a lot. We were just coming off of our Carnivus tour, which was also a Pikel tour. These are our records beforehand. And so the thing was just constantly continuing, and we went right into writing. And I promised them that day, I said, listen, that's it. We're not going to write any more songs. We've got enough songs. We can work on these and see where we're at. I will not give you any more songs. And then I went home that night and I was listening to some of the demos, and the record had a feeling to me of a panic attack in a certain way. Just how I was sort of feeling. And I thought that if it felt that way to me, like there's just this nerviness to the whole album, I'm finding that. I thought maybe it should have a song that got to the core of that in the most fundamental way. And then I had this riff in my head. And so I just started kind of playing it over and over that night. And I thought, okay, well, if I can sneak this into the band, if they will allow me to deliver them one more song, even though I promised them I wouldn't do any. So I got to the practice space early, and I just started playing in there, like playing the riff. And at the time, it was just the main riff that happens a lot. And it was just the riff and a chorus, and that was it. There was not going to be any verses or anything. It was just going to be this sort of musical thing, and then these vocals, and then musical thing, and these vocals. And everybody slowly started to walk in and just kind of like gave in, just started playing to it. Christopher immediately started playing drums to it and started playing those drums. And so they were happy. They're like, okay, this is good. we should do this song. So that's what I remember about that.
That's cool, man. That's a
That's
great
awesome.
story. So I think we have one more question, Jay, and this is a bit of audience participation. Go ahead and hit us with that.
Yeah, our first time trying this one out. So thanks for sharing all the stories today, Brian. Really appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
We're getting excited every time.
Thanks for listening.
Oh, no problem. And this is from the Instagram account 28 Rays Later. First of all, clever name. Really liking that.
28
Rays Later. I like that.
Wow.
And he asks, or she, I didn't look. They asked. There we go. I didn't look at the account. They, Carnivas tour next year. That's what they were asking.
Next year, no.
No. Oh, that was a quick answer. But that was good.
Next year, no.
I like it.
But,
and I will be here for this.
I'm going to say that we have wrapped our minds around it, and it was important for us. This sounds weird, but it was hard for us to wrap our minds around doing something like that without it feeling cynical.
Right.
And we've kind of, through touring and sort of talking about it, we've kind of come to the conclusion that no, it's like there's just so many people now that have, in different levels of their life, have been turned on to our band and didn't really get a chance to kind of hear a lot of those songs live. And we would be better at it. We almost want to get a chance to play those songs live better than we did then. And so we thought, okay, we'll do it. We'll do a Carnivus tour. We'll probably do a tour with it.
Well, I got to share a quick story because I picked up this album at one of the shows. And this was a terrible idea to buy merch before going to the pit because I was holding on this while in the pit at the College Street Music Hall when I first saw you guys for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
And I got punched right in the back of the head. So whoever that was, thanks for causing damage to my head and almost this album. But anyway, we were so excited because we were actually handing out our business cards for our first band. It was me and my original bass player for the Sane Riot. We were handing out some stuff.
That's awesome.
We saw you, he was a big fan, got me into you guys. And then I got into you guys again because I saw you with Third Eye Blind, which I think might have been, I forget which one was first, at the Oakdale.
2017.
Yeah. And that I used to work there, so that was really cool. And I'm actually friends with Jimmy Koplick now. We go to coffee and stuff, so I've been hanging out with him, the original owner of the Oakdale. And then, so I've been seeing you guys a few times. And I saw you guys again at College Street, which I enjoyed, and that was with Frankie. So you signed my hat. I was the one that gave him the MTV hat, and he ran back and gave it to you. So I never got to meet you.
What?
Why
didn't he bring you backstage? Frankie?
I don't know. Many questions.
Yeah.
But no,
I got some questions. Let's get Frankie on here. Let's call Frankie on here and let's get him on here and explain himself.
But you'll have to explain, yeah. No, definitely a lot of fun. And I was trying to find that hat earlier to show you, but I have like Bowling for Soup signatures on there, so it's counting to get everybody's signature. Next time you guys come around,
Bowling for Soup wrote that Phineas and Ferb song, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And that show's coming back now too.
Dude,
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
My son that was the pandemic. My son is 9, so during the pandemic, he was certain shows he was watching, and the Phineas and Ferb era was the best era ever. Like we got so into it, like listening to those songs and stuff.
104 days of COVID vacation.
Oh my gosh, so good. Yeah, more than that.
It was scary. Yeah, it was scary at that time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and Brian, thank you for tuning in today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Really, tuning in. Thank you for guesting. Jeez, thank you for everybody else for tuning in.
I'm also tuning in.
Yeah,
I'm also paying attention.
Perfect.
We might be audience too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, I'm going to give you guys 33.
Oh, we're getting more even.
30,
I like it.
33, 33, 34.
All right, Matt, you got to say something quick.
You decide. You decide who the 34 is.
That's very diplomatic of you.
I like it.
You got it.
Are these the royalty splits from ASCAP? Is this what those are the royalty splits for the podcast?
Well, I don't know. That's above my pay grade. What's a royalty?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Brian. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think we got enough time to just do a quick little wrap up, at least so we could all say bye and stuff.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So Paul Di'Anno passed away. Liam Payne passed away. These are two very Paul Di'Anno, a big fan of Iron Maiden, but Liam Payne hit me really hard.
Those first records, those first Maiden records when they were kind of just a punk band, really. You know what I mean? Pretty cool.
Yeah, I loved the Killers and Iron Maiden, when they were.
It's a really fun thing to do is what we've been doing recently is do like a first and last or latest. We'll like listen to a first record of somebody and then listen to their latest one and try to connect dots in some fashion, and it's really fun. We did that with PJ Harvey recently. where it was just like you listen to record Dry, and then you listen to her newest one, and you can just see how much growth there is, but you can also feel the unmovable object inside it.
Interesting exercise.
I like that.
It's really, really fun to do. Well, hopefully with artists that have good stuff still happening.
Sure.
Oh, I guess Silversun Pickups. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No,
I
don't need to know that.
No. And then, and then one last thing was, Tom Rourke is not given an F if you want radio back together to perform. I guess
he's got the smile. He's doing that thing. Yes, and even though they got back rehearsing
that
again.
Band, that's so fascinating. Like this band has given you. Radiohead is one of those bands that no matter how awesome they are all the time, everyone's always like, when their next thing comes out, their arms are folded. Let's see what you got this time. I'm like, God,
totally.
At this point, let them do whatever.
Right.
Here's the thing. The Smile rules. They're having a blast. The Smile shows are some of the most insane happenings I've ever seen.
I've been. They're great.
Yeah. It's like a whole thing, it's just like this. It feels just like a happening, right? Like a thing that's just like a shock. Radiohead will be back, and the longer you wait for them, the more exciting it'll be when they do come back, and it'll blow your mind.
It's all planned.
The record.
Yes, it's all
like
Tom York strategy.
They gotta go have fun. They gotta go do stuff. But the Smile was going to be Radiohead stuff, but then Ed O'Brien had his solo stuff, and so they couldn't work it out. But Johnny had all these songs, so they just did this, and it seems like they're having a great time, which is important for people to do, and that way they can come back to Radiohead feeling fresh, and they totally will. So I'm so sorry out there, people.
That Tom York is dead.
Oh,
yeah.
Tie it into the first thing. Yeah.
Can I tell you who started that rumor? The guy I know from a podcast I do. Unlikely Places.
Who was that guy?
Who is that guy?
Let me just tell you, that guy has seen it all. He was there for the big truck disaster in San Francisco that week.
It sounds like he's good. What year was that, Dave? Got to put like truck disaster of whatever year.
That one was 2016.
Truck disaster of 16.
I could give you more truck disaster stories, but that one what stood out.
I know the Moody Blues had a terrible one when my dad saw them way back when the Coliseum was here in Connecticut, way back, and they had it to where they actually showed up. They were on time. The gear was not, and they promised everybody they played everything. So that as long as you wanted to stay, so it was so late, but they just kept playing till like 3 a.m, all Moody Blues songs, everything they had. And my dad was like, that was a fun show, but like they can't even do that anymore with sound ordinances and everything. But it's like, that's crazy. So yeah, we'll wrap up our show. Thank you so much, Brian, for coming on for the second time now with the new format, which I much prefer as a very much bringing the family on.
Appreciate your time.
And thank you so much. And everybody will just say bye. Jay, signing off.
See you soon.
See you for the next episode.
See you later.
Bye. Bye, guys.